All right, so just finished up at the gym. A little behind on my habits today, but that's the point of accountability, right? Is that regardless of what life throws at us, we follow through. Um, so yeah, right now I'm cooking up some lunch on the grill, and then after lunch I'm gonna knock out my reading and upload those videos and thoughts on that reading. Hope you all are doing well, and see you soon. All right. So today's reading, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was a short chapter, but very impactful one. It was one that talked about throwing down the gauntlet or setting a challenge, and it spoke to the heart of competition, that oftentimes payment alone for a job isn't enough to motivate the type of production that you want. And they used an example of Charles Schwab asking the day crew how many heats were made in the mill. And they said 6. So without saying a word, he just drew a big 6 on the floor and left. And then when the night crew came in, they found out what happened. So it ignited a little bit of a competition. And the next morning, the 6 was scratched out and it said 7. Well, the day crew showed up again and they said, hey, the night crew is not better than us. And it sparked competition. So then when that day was over, it was 10. And it turned that particular part of the mill into the most productive. And it was all out of a desire to excel, a bragging rights, if you will, the competitive heart of man. And so I think it's really cool to remember that in remembering our actions as well as what drives other people. Sometimes, giving people a little bit of a challenge will help motivate them into taking a position or moving in a direction that we want by putting a little bit of a challenge behind it. If they have that competitive heart. So I really like that chapter. Atomic Habits today was about making a habit attractive. I wasn't quite sure how this was going to work out, but it was actually really cool the way he went into it. Started out by talking about dopamine feedback loops and how our brain releases dopamine in anticipation of a reward that creates that feedback loop in our reward system. And we see that very clearly with sugars and sweets and pornography and other areas where we get a dopamine hit. It produces this feedback loop. Social media is a big one right now. And it said, how we can leverage what we already know is by, similar to habit stacking, we have temptation stacking. So if you have a task you enjoy doing that you already know you get a dopamine hit when you do it, and you have a task that you need to do, something you need to get done, tying them together the way you would for habit stacking. So a habit stack would be, when I complete X, then I will complete X. And that turns habit A into the cue for habit B to take place. Now, if habit A is something that you need to get done, and habit B is something you enjoy doing, now you're making that habit that otherwise may not be as attractive. You're making it more attractive because there's a dopamine hit associated with it. And they talked about a young man who knew he needed to get in more shape, but he, like most of us, liked to Netflix and chill. So what he did was he wrote a computer program, attached it to his stationary bike, and Netflix would only play while he maintained a certain speed on the bike. If he slowed down for too long, it would pause the show and he'd have to pick up the pace in order for it to kick back on. And what that did was that tied two actions together. One of taking physical action to improve yourself that didn't necessarily have a dopamine hit associated with it, but it was a habit he wanted to create, and tied it to the dopamine hit from binge watching Netflix. So you could, in that scenario, defeat obesity by keeping the Netflix playing, right? So the more you turn the cycle, the more Netflix will play. And companies have been studying and leveraging this dopamine feedback loop to maximize their sales. So why don't we start to learn how to use this psychological and biological principle to help maximize our potential and our success in our given fields. So hopefully that was useful. That being said, I've got a couple phone calls I've got to make. And then, yeah, I think we're going to spend some time together as a family this evening, maybe go for a hike. And I will talk to you soon. Boop. All right, so got all my habits in today. Ended up sharing my story, ended up booking an appointment for a potential business partner for Tuesday of next week. And yeah, getting set for some samples that I'm going to start passing out next couple of days, and set up a means to gauge the effectiveness, and then yeah, just keep building on these habits, man. Today everything happened out of order from the habit that I'm trying to develop, but the main purpose is the accountability in getting it done regardless. And so that's where I'm at today. It's late in the evening, but I did everything I said I was going to get done today, and I'm planning out tomorrow now. So talk to you guys soon.